But yeah, no, and you know, you mentioned all the travel and everything, and I mean, being okay. So when you enlisted, and I mean, I'm sure you went through so many things and thought process. Obviously, the Army has done wonderful stuff for you. I mean, what did being in foster care and being that upbringing really, did it help guide you to that? Did it what kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and now that you bring it up that way, I just thought about it for a second. So when you're in foster care and you leave a house, like you're just packaged up, you're put in a car, you're driving down the road, and then you're brought into another house, and they're like, okay, here's your bed, and you got somebody else in the room you've never met before. You're very young. In the Army, when your very first introduction to that sort of lifestyle is when you go to MEPS, our in-processing station. They put you in a hotel, so usually it's a test, and then you stay the night in a hotel, and the next morning you get up and do a physical. You'll have a roommate in that hotel room. So there's 2 beds, and you'll have obviously males with males and females with females. And so you have this roommate you've never met before. You have no idea who they are. They could be any race, whatever, right? And so these 2 cultures have to come together, and they have to agree with each other. They have to trust each other, and that's your first. Me, I felt very comfortable. I didn't know this person who was in the room, but I'd already instantly got into that comfortability in there. Then you get to basic training. You have a bay. You're there with everybody, all walks of life from God knows where, right, in the United States and some from overseas. So your bunkmate could be from Texas. The one next to you can be from Alaska. And for myself, it was easy. It was just easy to adapt to because growing up and living in foster care system, and of course I only had the 3 homes, but even then when you leave your mother, you get in that car, you go to somebody else's house, and it's usually, I don't know why it's always in the middle of the night. Maybe you can
No, you're right. You're right.
Why it was always late. It was late at night. The same thing with the other 2. And you go, like, you're supposed to just go to sleep. Like, it's just naturally going to happen. Like, you're not falling asleep. You're laying there. You're like, what's going to go on?
Happening?
Are they going to kill me? I don't know.
Right.
You don't know anything. You're scared. So, I have to say, maybe foster care helped provide that little bit of knowledge into my own head to say, hey, this is how you deal with the situation. I guess the experience is unrivaled, especially for a young, because children can adapt so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Even my own children, they obviously came here, a year or 2 ago from Germany, and to adapt. My youngest, she's now 6. She arrived here speaking no English, even though I only speak English to her. She went from German to English in a matter of a week.
Wow.
Like that. Instantly adaptable. And I'm very proud of her for that. But yeah. And you have everybody there. So a lot of these kids who join, they're part of natural mom and dad families, and just coming along very quickly. And I don't know, maybe that's what helped me. Can't really say for certain.
No, and the way you put it, that makes total sense. Because you do have to adapt so much and so quickly, and I could imagine that's similar. Do you see a lot of foster kids going the military route? And
no,
not really.
So I'm working with a few in my job career right now. I guess the biggest issue is, unfortunately, in the Army we have a very strict qualification criterias. Anywhere, and they check you from head to toe. They check your medical background. They check any type of counseling, if you were thrown on this medication or that medication, and these things could just automatically disqualify somebody from getting in, because you're talking about less than 1% of the population joins the military service in general, right? Or actually gets in. So if they come in and they have any mental issues that are going on in their background, it could prevent them from joining. I've met a few when I've been in where they were in foster care, but not on the scale that you kind of would think, in a sense, because like this is a great opportunity for anybody.
Right.
I've met a lot of, I would say, young men and women who were, I guess, disregarded from their family or didn't really have the family members around them. They weren't really in foster care. They were sort of living with grandma, or they were living with an aunt and uncle, and they needed a way out. So,
yeah, so in a way, still away from the parents.
Correct.
But yeah, and and I didn't think of it that way because the medical issues is the big one, which I know just from my experience, there's a lot, unfortunately, just the nature of it, and that's a shame because it is an amazing opportunity for that could help that.
Exactly. And if you come in and you have ADHD or any of these medical problems that have a person rely on medication, it can cause major issues, because the one thing you cannot have in your military in general is somebody on medication. I mean, it just would...
Okay, I didn't know that.
Especially during basic training. Now, afterwards, after you've been in and you go and see the doc and you're like, I'm not feeling good, they might prescribe you this and that.
Right.
But during your initial training, you can't be on any medication, and it makes sense because you're training with somebody who's supposed to have your back, right? If me and you were in the foxhole together and I know you're blitzed because you have Vicodin in you or something,
good point. I
have to watch your back more than someone watching my own back. So. Yeah, they don't allow that, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I just know from this experience of this job that it seems this day and age that a lot of parents are just easily rushing their kids to see a doctor for mental issues, and the doctors are easily giving them these medications and not realizing what problems it could cause further down the road. And if they have this medication, that medication, and any of these jobs that require your medical background, they're going to see it. And unfortunately for the child, they didn't wish for it to happen.
Right.
You wouldn't believe how many kids come in and they believe they had asthma, and they never did. But because mom gave them this thing, so that's stuff we have to be wary about.
Yeah, and in the foster kids we had, I mean, I'm on medications galore.
Really?
I mean, it's I mean, ADHD, other things, anxiety, things like that. But I'm never a fan of it. But it's based on the counseling and everything, and they determined just to try to help them get through to where they're at. But never thought of it that way because that's in their history now.
And plus, I was in during the 80s.
Okay.
In foster care, so ADHD and all that was not a talking point.
Nobody knew what it was.
Yeah, they didn't know that. Like, it's the same thing with what's the thing? Autism. I never heard of autism until I was over in Europe, and I'm like, what is autism? And I'm like, all these kids have it, and I'm like, did I have it? Like, I don't know. That's the great thing is like I don't know what I had maybe as a kid. Who knows what they would have given me had I been born maybe 10 years later, and I wouldn't even have this chance that I'm in now. So when I walked into the Army, I was quiet about a lot of stuff. I was just like, I'm perfect. There's nothing wrong with me. I didn't know if I told them if I was in foster care, would I get disqualified?
Right.
I thought if you take an aspirin, you get disqualified. They're like, you ever take an aspirin? No. Like,
never.
Who does that? I don't even drink water. I don't even drink. No. Right. I tried to be very like black and white with my answering when it came to entering the Army. I didn't want to be very detailed as I am now. Obviously, I don't have to worry about it. But like when I joined, I was just like, yes, no, yes, I don't know. Where's this? I don't know. And I got in, and I feel very fortunate that I did, especially now doing the job that I do, where you're asking these questions. Have you ever had this? Oh, wow, really? Oh, God, and then, but yeah.
It's like, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. But if there is somebody who's in foster care or is getting of age and they were adopted or or regardless, and they want to find out more what the Army could do for them, then by all means, it's just a conversation. That's all it is. Nobody's got a piece of paper for them to sign up. There's no bus outside. We're getting ready to take them out to basic training. It's a very long and complicated process. So I know it seems like a lot of people are afraid of us. I get that all the time, especially in the high schools. The high schools are the best because they avoid you like the plague.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've had to bring a spinning wheel that has, like, you can win a snack or a lanyard or a T-shirt, and just to draw them to the table, and they're so frightened by us, and we're like, look, I'm not hiring you. I don't even do that. That's not even like my job.
Right.
My job is just to give you information, and then finally they come sit down, and if you get somebody and you explain it. So it's sort of like sections that the Army is. I've had 3 jobs in the Army. I've had combat engineer, where I looked for roadside bombs, IEDs, things like that. That was my first job because I wanted something adventurous. Remember, I went into the recruiter and I said, change the nerd into the combat guy, and they turned me more into a nerd than a combat guy. Mainly because you get a lot of free time. And when you have this free time, you tend to do your hobbies that you like the most. And because you have this stable income, you have a roof over your head, you got your 3 square meals a day, you don't have to pay for utilities, you just have this disposable money, and you're buying computers, video games, and I became more of a nerd. So my first job was combat engineer, and then I switched in 2011 to civil affairs. So here I have a job that's combat related, and then I move over to another job, which is international relations. So the best way to describe that would be overseas, if the U.S. Army was to take a convoy of trucks and drive it from Germany to, let's say, Italy, I would contact all the German cities along the way, all the Austrian cities along the way, and the Italian cities along the way, their police chiefs, mayors, you name it, and say, hey, look, we're coming through. What do you think? What's the best route for us to do this? Make diplomatic clearances, things like that. And then while we're driving through, I would be on the ground talking to the Italians, the Austrians, the Germans, and say, hey, how do you feel about this? What do you know about the Army? And then get a census of what's going on. And just bring that back to the commanders and say, hey, this is what they feel, this is what they don't want you to do, this is what you should do, and then give them like course of actions to say, maybe you should take this route instead of taking this route so you don't bother the city. And I did that for 8 years.
Wow.
And then now I'm a human resources recruiter.
Big difference.
Yeah,
all the way down.
it just adds to the resume. So constantly you want to add more and more to your resume for when I eventually retire, go back to Germany, spend out my last days there, and enjoying German beer and their folk fests, and
that's got to be a fun time over
yes.
there.
Yeah.